looking at other people, and I'm not judging them. I'm having compassion for them. I'm trying to understand where they came from and their experiences, rather than judging.
And he said, really, I started to feel that I had no limits. Now, not all of us have the same kind of spiritual experience, spiritual awakening. But whether we call it spiritual awakening or spiritual experience, whether we call it enlightenment or psychic change or rebirth or salvation, whatever you want to call it, it's okay. Because nobody really has the exact same awakening. And by the way, like I said, I've had several, and I hope I'll have more. And I know that each of you have probably had one or more. And it really is kind of a mystical, as I said, feeling about life itself. And so I dare you to awaken this morning, to reach within yourself, not out, and within yourself, to find that place where your heart comes alive and sings, where you feel so much joy, thank you, that you don't know what to do with it, except to live it. I have a friend who is awakening. Her name is Maisie, and she's right up here. There she is. That was a few weeks ago. She, like many of us as we get older, gains weight. Anyway, she's now 4 months old, 4.5 months old, and she's named Amazing Grace by my granddaughter, and we call her Maisie. But anyway, she's awake all the time, just about, especially now. And she goes a full 8 hours running every day, and she's never met anybody she could not say hello to, and she's just not afraid of anything. And I think she was born in Brooklyn because she's such a roughhouse. And so anyway, we obviously are enjoying her, and I think she's enjoying us. Now, before we go into awakening, though, I think or as we've talked about awakening, there's one thing that we really need to be aware of that we all do from time to time. And it's called, the next slide, spiritual bypassing. Spiritual bypassing. Spiritual bypassing, yes, there it is, bypassing, okay. It's really the tendency to use spiritual explanations to avoid complex psychological issues. What I'm talking about is, and again, an example is, I had some folks, a few folks in the church when I was in Richmond, and one in particular would come and talk to me about the fact that he was uncomfortable on some subjects that I talked to. And he didn't come there to be uncomfortable. He came to feel comfortable. And I said to my friend, well, you've come to the wrong place. Sometimes we need to be uncomfortable to find out who we are. And so what happens is in spiritual bypassing, and this term was first coined in the 1980s by a fellow named John Wellwood, who has a book called Toward the Psychology of Awakening. He was a therapist and a Buddhist monk at the same time. And he began to notice that people, including himself, often wielded spirituality as a shield. As a shield. See, I want to feel good. And spirituality and growth spiritually is not all about feeling good. It is feeling good, but it's not all about feeling good. Here are some signs of being or using spiritual bypass in your life. You avoid feelings of anger. See, the feelings of anger are okay. It's what you do with it that's important. It's what you do with it that's important. Now, I'm not suggesting you got to go out and get angry. Okay? You don't have to do that this morning. What I'm suggesting is if you do get angry, that you just accept it as part of who you are and manage it. Manage it. Another is believing that spiritual practices such as meditation or prayer are always positive. When I was in school, we had meditation from 11:30 to noon every day, just about, and in a class. And I got to tell you, I don't know how many of them I missed, but I missed a few of them because by 11:30 I was hungry and sleepy. And anyway, but people would share their stories about their meditative experience. And some of them were beautiful colors and light and all kinds of things. And I didn't experience much of that. So I was beginning to wonder what's wrong with me. And there probably was something wrong with me, but I didn't want to admit it. But anyway, what happened is that finally one day I had my meditative experience where I actually saw a color. The color was gray. Everybody else saw all kinds of beautiful colors, and I saw gray. What is that all about? If you figure it out, let me know, please, because I don't know. But anyway, and so sometimes we think when we meditate, we're supposed to just feel good. But you know, if you really pray and meditate at a deeper level, I believe that what comes up is something that needs to be healed, something that needs to be changed, something that is painful that maybe has happened to you in the past, and you're not beyond it yet. It's still there. It's still hanging on. So meditation and prayer is not always just comfortable and feeling good. And then thinking that you must rise above your emotions. Don't do that. Let your emotions flow. But again, manage your emotions. Understand that what you're feeling is very natural because you're in the human condition. It's okay. But we manage our emotions and live with life as it comes to us. And so what we do is in that process, we get confused sometimes. For example, there was a woman who was angry and upset about something that someone else has done. And she shares that in a unity class. And the response she got was, "Oh, stop being so negative." That's a way to shut people down. You've got to manage your emotions. You've got to manage your feelings. You just can't feel that way. And, you know, nobody can tell us how to feel because we're each different and have different experiences, and we're going to feel differently about just about everything because we're created that way. And anyway, what was happening is that she was African American, and she was sharing some of her issues, and the Anglos in the room were concerned for her and couldn't understand why she was upset at what had happened. But as she told her story, and people listened, actively listened, they found themselves empathizing with her and understanding the pain she had lived in her particular situation. And as they did that, the room changed. And she felt accepted. She felt understood. She felt cared for. And so as we understand this process of spiritual bypassing, it really is the idea that I don't want to deal with the problem that I have right now. I don't want to deal with the hurt I have right now. I don't want to deal with my feelings about a divorce I went through. I don't want to deal about the loss of a loved one. I just want to stay put where I am and try to hide from that. But as we deal with it, we awaken to ourselves. We find ourselves and we find the strength and the love within ourselves. This next slide is a triangle called a cognitive triangle, and it says at the top thoughts. And this is kind of how it works, that we have thoughts. Now, thoughts do one of two things. They either bring up feelings, which then create a behavior. I think I'm a victim, so I'm going to strike out at somebody. I think that I am in love with myself, so therefore I'm going to be loving to others. It works both ways. And so the feeling elicits this behavior, but sometimes what happens is because of our habitual way of thinking and living life, what happens is we have a thought and the behavior takes place and you don't even know that you experience the feelings. And a behavior by somebody else can bring on feelings for you. And what we have to do is just understand and sit with that. It's okay. It's a wonderful way in which to understand ourselves, understand others, and grow in the Christ-likeness. And so as we move forward, the next thing I want to do, and I don't think I've introduced this here yet, is called the screen of life. I may have. And this screen of life is that you and I each have a different screen of life. And the wonderful thing about it is when I look at my screen of life, sometimes wonderful, I can see where I am not living up to the divine expression that I am. I can see where I have some work to do. I can see where I need to do some forgiveness, which we'll talk about next week. I can understand why I'm acting the way I am, and I can actually do something about it. It's called looking in the mirror, looking at your screen of life, and remembering that each of our screens of life are different because we've been raised differently, we've been taught differently, we have had different experiences, and we do everything from our own experiences and our own situation, which is why we have a different screen of life than anybody else. And so how do I move through and awaken? And there's two ways. I'm not going to spend a great deal of time on it, but two ways in which we do that. One is that I use denials, which is the next slide. And in a denial, what we're talking about here is not denying psychologically that something's happened to me. That's going back to spiritual bypassing. But instead, a denial is bringing up something within myself. Let's say I have a resentment towards somebody, and it really is blocking my spiritual growth. And as I bring that up, I affirm that it has no power over me. Something has happened that's disturbing, that's still bothering me. I can affirm it has no power over me. Now, I have to do that several times. Each time it comes up, I can affirm it has no power over me, and then eventually it comes up, and I'm going, yeah, I used to think that. So it takes time many times. The other thing is called an affirmation. And Friday night and yesterday, I had the great pleasure of spending time with your prayer chaplains as they were training themselves. I'm not sure they really needed training. They were wonderful, by the way, very powerful individuals. And James wrote an article about affirmations. And he shared that with us, and it was quite beautiful. He really went into detail. He used scripture. He used very basic affirmations by different people to explain the power of the affirmation. Affirmations are powerful. Charles Fillmore, co-founder of Unity, said that if you use affirmations, you will eventually change. But you have to do it focused, and you have to do it over and over again. He said if you use a denial and then cover the void once that denial has been, that you've disclaimed it, then what happens is the affirmation becomes stronger and you'll heal faster. So an affirmation is simply looking at something, as is an affirmative prayer, and determining what is it I want to show up as. How do I want to be? I behold the Christ in me is an affirmation. I am the Christ in the human condition is an affirmation. I am in love with me is an affirmation. Self-compassion. And so as we understand that and learn that, what happens is that we're able to change our screen of life. And after that, what I would say is, number one, on the next slide, is be aware. Be aware. Keep a journal if you need to. Write down a note sometimes about something that's happened and how you feel and how you are either reacting or responding to it. Reaction usually is when I'm not in control of my feeling. Response means I am in control of my feeling and I'm thinking about what I'm going to do or say. Be awake. Be awake to life itself. Be awake to your inner self. Be awake to the Christ that's within you. Be awake and enjoy life. Be awake when you're at a party and enjoy the people who are there and bless them. One of the neat things that happened while I was away, by the way, is that on the Tuesday night after I got back home, the neighbors all came over to see me. I've only lived there a year, but they all came over to see me. I think they really wanted fresh beer, but anyway, and they brought all kinds of food, and we just had a wonderful 3 hours together. It was really cool. So I really appreciated that. But you know, that is just that is just the opportunity people and you and I have to make someone feel appreciated, to make someone feel good, to make someone understand that you are an expression of divine expression. And as you experiencing an awakening in one part of your life or another, know that others will feel it and respond to it. And then what happens is we begin to heal. Sometimes the healing takes a while, sometimes it's instantaneous, but we begin to heal in different ways. I'll close with this one story. When I was in El Paso and started at Unity, I've been going for about 6 months, and I was doing consulting work for a firm. And the older fellow in there was a wonderful Jewish man, and he said, "Richard, I got to have lunch with you." I said, "Well, sure. What's going on?" I thought it was about business. He said, "No, I got to talk to you. I really do." I said, "Okay." So we go to lunch, and he said, "What has happened to you?" I said, "What?" He said, "What has happened to you? Do you know how much you've changed? Do you know how much you've changed in a positive way?" And I've never been what you call negative, I don't think. And he said, "But I can feel it and see it in you." And that was about a month after I had the Edwin Gaines situation. So others feel it, they see it, and here's the nice thing, they want it. Because it makes us feel whole. God bless. Thank you. To be in the now moment. To know that you are awakened. You are special. You are loved. You are a divine expression in this now moment. Relax your shoulders. Relax your toes. Relax in the place you're sitting. And as you do, you may say to yourself, what is mine to do? What do I need to awaken to? And as you open that heart space, the answers will come. And as you feel in this moment any emotion, embrace it. If an idea comes to your mind of what you need to do or how you need to change, embrace it. And as you embrace it, sit in the silence. Sit in the silence. And now, share with me this affirmation. I am awake. Say that now. I am awake. One time more. I am awake. Amen.